Every night, under the pale glow of a streetlight, a lone wolf locks its gaze on a man's house. When the man, gripped by equal parts fear and curiosity, finally opens his door, the sight that meets him leaves him frozen in terror. What secret is this enigmatic wolf guarding in the darkness? Stay tuned as we unravel the chilling mystery behind this nightly encounter. In a quiet suburban neighborhood where routine often blends with the mundane, one house has become the stage for a mystery that chills the soul. Every night, as the town slips into a hushed lullaby of darkness and shadows, an eerie presence makes itself known. At the edge of a well-manicured lawn, a lone wolf, its coat a striking blend of silver and shadow, appears, its piercing eyes fixed intently on one particular home. The sight is both haunting and mesmerizing, drawing the attention of not only neighbors, but also a solitary man whose life is about to change forever. John, a reserved yet curious resident of the house, first noticed the wolf during one of his late-night walks. Initially, he dismissed it as a trick of the light or an overactive imagination. But as days turned into weeks, the wolf's silent vigil became an undeniable ritual. Every night, without fail, the wolf would appear at a fixed distance from John's home, its gaze locked onto the front door as if it were guarding a secret. The unyielding stare of the creature carried a weight of ancient wisdom and an undercurrent of warning that resonated deep within him. Haunted by the wolf's persistent presence, John's curiosity gradually overcame his initial trepidation. Questions began to swirl in his mind. What could this wild creature possibly want from him? Was it simply a wanderer drawn to the lights, or was it a spectral messenger bearing news from the untamed wilderness beyond his neatly trimmed hedges? The wolf's unwavering stare, filled with an inexplicable mix of calm and intensity, hinted at an enigma far beyond the realm of ordinary wildlife encounters. Compelled by a desire to confront the mystery, John's nights became a mix of anxious anticipation and sleepless wonder. He installed a small camera by his door, hoping to capture evidence of the wolf's nightly visits. Each morning, he would review the grainy footage, searching for clues that could explain the animal's strange behavior. The wolf remained an elusive figure, its eyes reflective of secrets long kept by the wild, yet its presence stirred a deep, almost primal instinct within him, a connection to nature and its untold stories. As the nights continued and the wolf's presence grew bolder, John began to sense that this was not just a random encounter, but a call to face something buried in the depths of his own past. Little did he know that the wolf's gaze would soon force him to confront a truth that would challenge everything he thought he knew about fear, destiny, and the mysterious bonds between man and nature. In the calm, orderly suburb where John lived, life followed a predictable rhythm. By day, the streets bustled with activity, children riding bikes, neighbors greeting each other over white picket fences, and the steady hum of daily routine. Yet as dusk settled and the neighborhood surrendered to the embrace of night, an unexpected visitor disrupted the tranquility. Every evening, at precisely the same time, a lone wolf would emerge from the shadows of the nearby woods and position itself at a fixed spot near John's house. The animal's piercing eyes would lock onto his front door as if it were guarding some secret or delivering an urgent message from the wild. John, a quiet and introspective man in his late 30s, had always prized his privacy. Working from home as a freelance graphic designer, he spent countless hours immersed in his projects, rarely venturing out after sunset. At first, he thought the wolf was merely a stray passing through, attracted by the soft glow of streetlights. But as the nights wore on, the creature's presence became a ritual, a nightly visit that John couldn't ignore. Its steady, almost human-like gaze stirred a mix of fear and fascination within him. Determined to understand the significance of this enigmatic visitor, John started to document its appearances. He set up a small camera near his door, positioning it carefully to capture the wolf's silent vigil. Each morning, he would review the footage with a growing sense of anticipation. The recordings confirmed his suspicions. The wolf was not a random wanderer. Its movements were deliberate, and it always stopped at a precise distance from his door. There was an air of purpose in its stance, a message embedded in those unblinking eyes. Curiosity soon gave way to deeper questions. Who was this wolf? What drew it to his home night after night? As John began to research local wildlife habits, he discovered that the area was known for its diverse ecosystem, but no one had ever reported such a consistent, almost ritualistic behavior from a wild animal. Some local legends hinted at mysterious guardians of the forest, creatures that bridged the gap between the natural and the supernatural. Though John was a practical man, he couldn't help but wonder if there was more to the story than mere chance. During the day, John visited the local library and pored over books about regional folklore and native wildlife. He found scattered accounts of wolves that had been seen as omens or guides, symbolizing both danger and protection. One tale in particular resonated with him, a story of a man who had once been saved from a perilous situation by a wolf that appeared at his doorstep. In that narrative, the wolf's intervention was seen as a turning point, urging the man to confront unresolved aspects of his life. The parallels to his own situation were uncanny, and the thought that the wolf might be trying to tell him something stirred an emotional response he had long suppressed. As weeks turned into months, the nightly encounters began to take on an almost ritualistic significance. John noticed subtle changes in the wolf's behavior. On some nights, the animal would pace slowly, as if hesitating before fixing its gaze on the door. On others, it seemed almost to be waiting, its posture rigid and alert. These variations prompted John to reflect on his own life. Could the wolf's behavior be mirroring something inside him? A call to confront his past, a signal to break free from the confines of isolation. At home, the quiet of his living room became a space for introspection. Sitting in his favorite armchair, John found himself pondering the wolf's silent message. His thoughts drifted to memories long buried, moments of loss, regret, and unspoken longing. In the stillness of those late hours, the wolf's image appeared as both a harbinger of danger and a potential guide toward healing. It was as if nature itself was urging him to step out of his comfort zone, to face emotions he had carefully locked away. Amid these internal conflicts, practical challenges emerged. Neighbors began to notice the wolf's regular visits, and rumors spread quickly. Some expressed concern for John's safety, while others speculated about wild animals roaming the streets. The local animal control service even visited the neighborhood, determined to capture or relocate the creature for its own protection and that of the residents. John, however, was torn. While he understood their worries, he couldn't bring himself to harm or drive away the wolf that had, while in its own way, become an uninvited yet meaningful part of his nightly routine. As the tension between community safety and the enigmatic beauty of the wolf's nightly ritual grew, John resolved to seek guidance. He reached out to a local wildlife expert, Dr. Marshall, who had extensive experience with regional fauna and folklore. Their conversation left John with more questions than answers. Dr. Marshall confirmed that the wolf's behavior was unusual but not entirely unprecedented. Wolves can be incredibly intuitive, he explained. Sometimes they sense disturbances, emotional or environmental, that we can't see. Perhaps, in some way, this wolf is drawn to you for reasons that are both natural and deeper. With each passing night, John's initial fear began to mingle with a cautious hope. The wolf, steadfast in its gaze and inexplicable in its purpose, had ignited something within him, a desire to explore the unknown parts of his own history. Uncertain but compelled by a need for answers, John embarked on a journey that promised to reveal more than he had ever imagined about the mysterious bonds between man and nature. In the wake of his growing curiosity, John found himself compelled to step further into the mystery of the wolf's nightly presence. The days began to blur with nights as he juggled his regular routine with a newfound obsession, understanding the connection between himself and the enigmatic creature. Determined to capture more evidence, John upgraded his setup. He installed a more sophisticated camera system at various angles around his property, ensuring that no movement would go undocumented. The early results were intriguing. Footage revealed the wolf pausing at specific times, almost as if performing a ritual. Each movement seemed deliberate, almost choreographed, and John started to notice subtle patterns that hinted at something more than mere animal instinct. At the same time, rumors about the wolf's visits had spread through the neighborhood. Neighbors began to share their own observations. Some recalled seeing the creature wandering near their gardens, while others mentioned that it sometimes lingered longer than expected. This collective awareness sparked lively discussions at local community centers, where old tales of woodland spirits and mystical guardians were revived. The local folklore, interwoven with modern skepticism, created a fascinating backdrop that both comforted and unnerved John. He discovered that several elderly residents recalled stories from their youth about a watcher of the night, a guardian of the wilderness whose eyes held both sorrow and wisdom. Feeling the pull of these narratives, John decided to deepen his research. He visited the local library, scouring through historical records and books on regional wildlife and folklore. It was there that he came across a tattered journal written by a naturalist from decades past. The journal described a wolf with an uncanny habit of appearing at homes during periods of personal turmoil, an omen, some believed, indicating that the person was about to confront a long-buried secret. The notion resonated with John, who had long harbored unresolved memories and regrets from his past. The idea that the wolf might be a harbinger, a messenger urging him to face these inner demons, was both terrifying and strangely alluring. As the nights passed, John's personal struggles began to intertwine with the mystery. He found himself haunted by memories of a painful breakup and the loss of a long-forgotten friend. In these vulnerable moments, the wolf's silent vigil became a mirror reflecting his own inner conflict, a challenge to confront his vulnerabilities head-on. His dreams grew vivid, filled with imagery of shadowy forests and spectral figures that seemed to beckon him deeper into the labyrinth of his past. These dreams left him both disturbed and oddly invigorated, prompting him to question whether his life was on the brink of a profound transformation. The situation escalated further when one chilly evening, as John opened his door to investigate the wolf's approach, he encountered a startling twist. Standing at the threshold was not just the wolf, but also a stray collie with a broken collar and wary eyes. The collie appeared hesitant, as if it had been separated from a larger pack, and it cowered slightly at the sight of John. In that frozen moment, a surge of empathy overwhelmed him. Here were two creatures, each carrying their own burdens and secrets, converging on his home as if by fate. The wolf, maintaining its steady gaze, seemed to acknowledge the collie's distress, and for a few breathless moments, the two animals appeared to communicate in silence before the collie scurried off into the darkness. This unexpected encounter left John with more questions than answers. Who was the collie, and what did its presence signify in relation to the wolf? Could it be that the two animals were linked in a way that pointed to a deeper mystery, perhaps an unspoken code among the wild, conveying messages of warning and guidance? These questions spurred him to document the incident meticulously, noting every detail from the animal's behavior to the precise time of the encounter. Desperate for clarity, John reached out to Dr. Marshall, the local wildlife expert he had spoken with earlier. During a long, contemplative conversation over coffee at a nearby diner, Dr. Marshall explained that wolves, though solitary in many respects, often operate within a complex social structure in the wild. It's not unusual for one wolf to act as a sentinel, while another handles more vulnerable members of its pack, Dr. Marshall noted. Sometimes, the presence of a subordinate animal can signal a disruption in the pack's dynamics. Dr. Marshall's insights hinted that the collie might be a stray from a neighboring pack, or perhaps even a remnant of a previously fragmented group. His explanation, however, only deepened John's intrigue, suggesting that the mystery of the nightly vigil was part of a much larger story, a narrative that spanned beyond his personal experiences to touch on the intricate balance of nature itself. Torn between rational inquiry and an almost mystical pull toward the unknown, John found himself at a crossroads. The nightly visits of the wolf and the appearance of the collie had become symbols of an impending personal reckoning. They were urging him to face long-held secrets, to unlock memories that he had long tried to bury. The more he delved into the mystery, the more he realized that this was not just about wildlife behavior. It was about the human heart, its capacity for change, and the interconnectedness of all life. One cold, crisp night, as John sat in his dimly lit living room reviewing his latest video footage of the wolf, something unusual caught his eye. In one of the recordings, captured from a slightly different angle, the wolf's gaze wasn't just fixated on his door, it seemed to be following a distinct pattern, almost as if it was guiding him toward something. As John played the footage repeatedly, a startling detail emerged. On several occasions, just moments before the wolf appeared at his doorstep, a faint, ethereal glow could be seen near the edge of his property, right where an old, neglected garden lay hidden behind a row of tall hedges. Compelled by a mix of curiosity and an inexplicable sense of destiny, John decided to investigate. The following night, armed with a flashlight and a notebook, he stepped outside at the exact time he had noted in his recordings. As he approached the overgrown garden, the cool night air felt charged with anticipation. There, amidst tangled vines and wildflowers reclaimed by nature, he discovered a weathered stone bench partially covered in moss. On the bench lay a small tarnished locket, its intricate design hinting at a history long forgotten. John's heart pounded as he picked up the locket. Inside, he found a faded photograph of a young woman with kind eyes and a serene smile, someone who looked both familiar and timeless. On the back of the photograph, an inscription read, "For those who seek truth, even the wild holds a secret." The words sent shivers down his spine. It was as if the locket was a message left for him, a tangible connection between the mysterious visits of the wolf and a part of his own hidden past. As John clutched the locket, he recalled fragments of memories he had long suppressed. A fleeting image of a woman who had once visited his family home when he was a child, a figure who had vanished as mysteriously as the morning mist. Could it be that the wolf, with its unyielding stare every night, was more than a random visitor? Was it a guardian, or perhaps a messenger, bearing a relic tied to a secret buried deep in John's history? Determined to uncover the truth, John scoured his family albums and old letters. In a dusty box in the attic, he found a faded envelope addressed to him in his mother's delicate handwriting. Inside was a letter that mentioned a guardian of the wild and hinted at a connection between their family and an ancient local legend. The letter spoke of a time when the boundary between the human world and the wild was more permeable, a time when nature's creatures were seen as protectors and bearers of wisdom. Though the details were hazy, one phrase stood out: "Remember the one who watches with eyes of the forest." John's pulse raced as he realized that this phrase echoed the silent as steady gaze of the wolf he had been observing. In that moment, the puzzle began to fall into place. The wolf's nightly ritual, the mysterious locket and the forgotten letter were not isolated phenomena. They were pieces of a larger mosaic connecting John's family past with the natural world. The wolf, with its intense, almost human eyes, seemed to be a living embodiment of the legend his mother had hinted at. It was as though the animal had been sent to guide him, to prompt him to confront memories and secrets that had been left untouched for years. The revelation was both exhilarating and terrifying. John felt that the wolf was not merely an animal roaming the night, but a mystical sentinel charged with a mission. Its silent vigil, its deliberate path, and the way it appeared each night now took on a profound significance. The wolf was urging him to remember, to reconnect with a part of his heritage that bridged the realms of human emotion and the raw, untamed spirit of nature. Overwhelmed by this discovery, John decided that he must document every detail of his experience. He began keeping a detailed journal, noting the wolf's behavior, the timings of its visits, and his own emotional responses. Each entry added weight to the conviction that the wolf was a messenger from a time when humans and nature shared a deeper, almost sacred bond. The locket, with its faded photograph and cryptic inscription, became a talisman, an artifact that symbolized a promise of redemption and understanding. As the night deepened and the chill in the air grew sharper, John realized that he was on the verge of a personal reckoning. The wolf's persistent presence was no longer just an oddity. It was a call to unearth hidden truths, to face the unresolved shadows of his past, and to embrace a legacy that intertwined the wild with the very core of his identity. The revelation set him on a path toward discovering not only the mystery behind the wolf's nightly visits, but also the deeper meaning of the ancient connection that his family had long forgotten. In the days following his startling discovery of the locket and the hidden family letter, John's world began to tilt under the weight of conflicting emotions. The revelation that the wolf's nightly vigil was intricately tied to a long-forgotten family legacy left him both exhilarated and deeply unsettled. As he grappled with the truth, every moment of the day became interspersed with the haunting memory of the wolf's steady, unwavering gaze. His home, once a sanctuary of predictable routine, was now a theater of mystery and emotional turbulence. John's first reaction was one of isolation. Overwhelmed by the flood of revelations, he withdrew into himself, poring over the dusty journal entries, faded photographs, and the fragile letter from his mother. The familiar walls of his living room, illuminated by the soft morning light, now felt charged with hidden messages from the past. Each artifact seemed to whisper secrets of a time when nature and humanity were intertwined by ancient bonds. In the quiet hours, he would trace the contours of the locket with trembling fingers, trying to decipher the inscription and imagine the life of the young woman in the photograph. Her serene smile, captured in a moment of bygone tenderness, became a symbol of hope amidst the confusion. At the same time, the community around John reacted in their own varied ways. Neighbors began to notice his frequent, almost obsessive trips to the local library and historical society. Quiet conversations in hushed tones started to circulate about the man whose home was watched by a mystical wolf. Some speculated that John was merely a lonely soul haunted by memories, while others wondered if the wolf itself was a harbinger of something supernatural. Local social media groups buzzed with both skepticism and fascination, with some residents claiming to have seen unusual happenings on their own properties. These whispered accounts, although unverified, created an undercurrent of collective intrigue that both isolated and connected John with his community. Meanwhile, John's inner circle, friends and a few close family members, witnessed a marked change in him. His best friend, Mark, who had long been a pragmatic, no-nonsense sort, was the first to notice. "You've changed, John," Mark remarked one evening over coffee. "You're not the same guy who used to brush off odd things as coincidences." Though Mark's words were meant with concern, they also carried a hint of admiration. Slowly, John began to open up, recounting his discoveries and the strange synchronicities that now defined his nights. These conversations, initially fraught with hesitance and disbelief, eventually evolved into heartfelt dialogues about fate, legacy, and the inexplicable pull of nature. At work, John's colleagues, accustomed to his quiet and measured demeanor, began to notice his distracted air and frequent daydreaming. Some whispered that he was haunted by visions, while others marveled at the intensity with which he pursued his research. John's renewed determination to piece together his family's past even led him to initiate a modest display in his home, a small corner dedicated to the mementos he had unearthed. Photographs, letters, and the mysterious locket were arranged on a shelf with care, a personal memorial that served as a constant reminder of the connection between his lineage and the wild. Yet, amid the growing acceptance and support, there were moments of profound loneliness. Late at night, when the house was silent except for the rhythmic tapping of rain against the windows, John would sit alone in his study. The glow of his computer screen illuminated pages of handwritten notes and scrawled theories linking the wolf to the ancestral legend his mother mentioned. In these solitary hours, doubts crept in. Was the wolf really a messenger from the past, or was his mind playing tricks on him? The fear of losing himself to these uncertainties wrestled with the compelling need to know the truth. As public curiosity intensified, local media began to take an interest in the strange occurrences. A modest newspaper article featured a short piece about a man whose nightly guardian was a mysterious wolf, a portrayal that oscillated between human interest and the supernatural. While some critics dismissed the story as fanciful, others found in it a mirror of the timeless allure of folklore. The mixed public reaction further complicated John's feelings. On one hand, he felt validated that others were noticing something extraordinary. On the other, he feared that the very exposure might distort the intimate truth he was striving to uncover. Throughout this tumultuous period, John maintained his nightly vigil with the camera system, determined to capture more evidence and to document the wolf's behavior with scientific rigor. Slowly, as he compared the footage with his written records, patterns began to emerge. The wolf's visits were not random but appeared orchestrated. Each movement, each pause at the overgrown garden, resonated with a significance that hinted at deeper meanings. This gradual accumulation of data, bolstered his resolve, transforming his initial shock into a committed quest for understanding. In the interplay between isolation and communal engagement, between skepticism and belief, John found himself evolving. The mystery of the wolf, once a source of dread and perplexity, had now become a catalyst for personal transformation. Each day, as he embraced both his past and the wild present that manifested outside his door, he inched closer to a revelation that promised to reconcile the fragments of his identity with the enduring spirit of nature. As John's quest to unravel the mystery deepened, his life began to intersect with unexpected subplots that further complicated the narrative. The discovery of the locket and the haunting family letter was only the beginning, a catalyst that ignited memories and introduced new challenges, weaving a web of interconnected stories that extended far beyond his solitary nightly encounters. One of the first subplots emerged from a conversation with his neighbor, Lisa, a local artist known for her vivid murals and deep interest in folklore. Over a casual chat one morning, Lisa mentioned that she had seen similar symbols in her research on local legends. She recalled an old tale of a forest guardian, a spirit said to be embodied by a wolf, whose appearances were linked to unresolved family histories. Intrigued, John and Lisa began sharing their findings. She showed him sketches inspired by ancient symbols and cryptic motifs, and together they pieced together hints of a legend that dated back generations in their town. This collaborative exchange not only bolstered John's determination, but also introduced the idea that his family's hidden past might be intertwined with local lore, a past that could explain the wolf's unerring presence at his door. Simultaneously, John's relationship with his best friend Mark began to shift. Mark, ever the pragmatist, had initially dismissed John's growing obsession as mere fanciful thinking. However, as John's discoveries became harder to ignore, Mark found himself drawn into the mystery. Late-night discussions over coffee turned into heated debates about fate, destiny, and the possibility of supernatural connections. Mark confessed that he, too, harbored unresolved memories, subtle hints of a childhood encounter with something inexplicable in the woods near his own home. Their shared vulnerability forged a deeper bond between them, yet it also introduced tension. Mark's skepticism clashed with John's emerging belief that the wolf was a messenger, and the two friends were forced to navigate their differences while seeking the truth. Amid these interpersonal dynamics, another unexpected complication arose when John received an anonymous package at his doorstep. Inside was a fragile, handwritten note accompanied by a small, intricately carved wooden figurine of a wolf. The note simply read, "Not all that is seen is as it appears. Seek the origins, and you may find the key." The mysterious delivery reignited John's determination, but also sparked a sense of foreboding. Who was sending these clues? Was it someone connected to his family's past, or perhaps an admirer of the local legend? The figurine, with its delicate craftsmanship, seemed to embody both the beauty and the enigma of the wolf, its presence a silent reminder that the truth lay hidden beneath layers of history and myth. John's investigation took on a broader dimension when he decided to consult Dr. Marshall once again. This time, however, the conversation veered into unexpected territory. Dr. Marshall, who had previously provided insights into the wolf's natural behavior, hinted at another possibility. "Sometimes," he said thoughtfully, "the natural world and the human psyche are not as separate as we believe. There are moments when our inner struggles can manifest in the environment around us." His words, though ambiguous, suggested that John's own emotional turmoil might be attracting the wolf, a living symbol of the unresolved pain and hidden truths buried within him. This idea unsettled John, who began to question whether the wolf was solely an external messenger or if it also mirrored his inner landscape. Meanwhile, the local media's interest in the strange phenomenon grew. A small newspaper ran a feature story about the watcher at the door, describing the wolf's nightly appearances and speculating on its possible meanings. The article was met with mixed reactions. Some readers found it a heartwarming tale of nature's mystery, while others dismissed it as sensationalism. For John, the public attention added a layer of pressure. He felt compelled not only to uncover his own past, but also to protect the sanctity of the mystery from being exploited for mere entertainment. As the community began to buzz with theories and rumors, an additional subplot emerged from an unexpected source, a distant relative whom John had never met. A letter arrived from his cousin Elena, living in a neighboring state, recounting family stories passed down through generations. Helena spoke of an ancestor revered for his deep connection with nature, a man who was believed to have once communicated with the wild as if they were kindred spirits. This familial link, hinted at through faded anecdotes and whispered legends, suggested that John's own lineage might have been marked by a mysterious affinity for the natural world. The revelation filled him with both awe and trepidation. Could it be that the wolf was more than just a random visitor, but a symbol of an inherited legacy, one that bound his family to the wild in ways he had never imagined? All these subplots and challenges converged to create a labyrinth of emotions and unanswered questions. John found himself caught between the rational explanations offered by science and the ineffable pull of ancient legends. Each new clue, whether in the form of an anonymous note, a shared conversation, or a family letter, added complexity to his journey. The wolf's nightly presence became a mirror reflecting the multifaceted aspects of his identity, his loneliness, his hidden pain, and the deep-seated yearning to reconnect with a part of himself long suppressed. In this turbulent confluence of external mysteries and internal revelations, John realized that the path to understanding was not linear. The truth lay at the intersection of folklore, family history, and personal introspection, a truth that demanded he confront not only the enigma at his doorstep, but also the secrets within his own heart. As John's investigation deepened, the mystery of the nightly wolf took on new dimensions that challenged not only his rational mind, but also his emotional core. The clues, the locket, the family letter, and the anonymous package had started to blur the boundaries between myth and personal history. Now John found himself grappling with a series of interactions that forced him to confront painful memories and inner conflicts, as well as the skeptical voices of those around him. One evening, shortly after the discovery of his distant cousin Elena's letter, John attended a small gathering at a local cafe where community members and local folklore enthusiasts met to share stories. Here he met Sarah, an empathetic local historian, who had dedicated her life to preserving the town's oral traditions. Sarah recalled a tale of a forest guardian whose appearance was said to coincide with moments of personal crisis. In a soft, measured tone, she described how this guardian was believed to not only watch over the town, but also to intervene in the lives of those burdened by unresolved sorrow. Her words resonated deeply with John, stirring in him a blend of hope and apprehension. However, not everyone at the meeting shared Sarah's openness. A skeptical local businessman, Tom, dismissed the story as mere superstition, arguing that such phenomena were nothing more than coincidences. This clash between belief and skepticism mirrored John's internal struggle. Part of him yearned to embrace the possibility of a mystical connection, while another part clung to the rational explanations he had grown up with. At home, the emotional stakes grew even higher. Late one night, while reviewing his footage and scribbling notes in his journal, John received a phone call from Mark, his best friend. Mark's voice was subdued, laden with concern as he asked, "John, are you sure you're not letting this consume you? I know you're searching for answers, but sometimes the past can be a heavy burden." The question hit John hard, forcing him to confront the possibility that his relentless pursuit might be a way to escape his own painful memories. Their conversation turned into a long, introspective dialogue about the nature of memory and the fine line between seeking truth and being trapped by it. Mark's pragmatic perspective served as both a grounding force and a painful reminder of John's vulnerability, an emotional dilemma that left him torn between his need for resolution and the fear of facing long-buried truths. In parallel, John's encounters with the wolf continued to evoke a torrent of conflicting emotions. On several nights, as he sat by the window, the wolf's silhouette appeared against the backdrop of the moonlit garden. Its unblinking gaze seemed to carry a message, a silent communication that stirred echoes of his childhood. In these moments, John experienced a profound internal conflict. The rational part of him insisted that the wolf was simply following natural instincts, while his heart insisted that the creature was a guardian, a symbol of a deeper ancestral bond. The wolf's presence became a mirror, reflecting John's innermost fears and desires. Every time he caught the animal's gaze, he was forced to confront the unresolved pain of past losses and the yearning for connection that he had long suppressed. As the local media began to pick up on the watcher at the door phenomenon, John found himself at the center of a burgeoning public debate. An article in the town's newspaper painted him as a reclusive man haunted by supernatural omens. While some readers expressed empathy, others ridiculed his experiences. The public scrutiny added an extra layer of pressure, making him question whether he was chasing a personal myth or if there was indeed a mysterious legacy behind the wolf's nightly visits. The mixed reactions from the community intensified John's internal conflict. On one hand, the attention validated his experiences. On the other, it threatened to expose his most intimate struggles to a judgmental audience. Amid these multifaceted interactions, John's emotional turmoil began to affect his daily life. He found himself oscillating between moments of lucid clarity, when the symbolism of the wolf filled him with a sense of purpose, and periods of overwhelming despair, when the weight of his family's forgotten past and his own loneliness threatened to engulf him. In one particularly poignant incident, while walking his small dog in the early morning light, John saw a reflection of the wolf's image in a puddle. The sight made him stop dead in his tracks, overcome by a flood of memories and emotions. He realized then that the wolf was not just an external visitor. It was a part of his inner world, a manifestation of both his hope for redemption and the pain of unhealed wounds. Throughout this period, John also encountered moments of unexpected tenderness. Sarah, the local historian, invited him to her modest home to view old photographs and documents related to the legend of the forest guardian. In the quiet intimacy of her study, surrounded by faded images and handwritten notes, John allowed himself to be vulnerable. He spoke about his childhood, his lost connections, and the inexplicable pull he felt toward the wild. Sarah listened with compassionate understanding, reinforcing the idea that sometimes embracing one's own pain was the first step toward healing. Her gentle reassurance offered a counterbalance to the harsh criticisms and doubts that had plagued him. In these complex interactions with friends and skeptics and kindred spirits, John's journey evolved from a solitary quest into a shared experience of searching for truth and reconciliation. Every conversation, every encounter with both people and the silent sentinel outside his door deepened his understanding of the delicate interplay between the human heart and the natural world. Yet, amid all this, the central mystery remained unresolved, a riddle that continued to beckon him forward, even as it forced him to confront the darkest corners of his soul. As the nights passed and John's inner journey grew ever more intertwined with the mysterious presence of the wolf, the atmosphere around his home began to shift in unexpected ways. The gentle rhythm of his nightly routine, once punctuated only by the silent watch of the guardian wolf, now carried an undercurrent of unease. Subtle changes in the environment hinted that the mystery was evolving, revealing layers that John had not anticipated. One particularly eerie evening, as a dense fog blanketed the neighborhood, John noticed something different. The wolf, usually seen in a steady, unwavering posture at the edge of the garden, appeared restless. It paced back and forth along the perimeter, occasionally stopping to look directly at the old ivy-clad gate of his house. In one instance, the creature's ears pricked up as if it had heard a distant sound, a sound that was not easily explained by the natural chorus of the night. John's heart raced. The behavior suggested that something else was afoot, something beyond the realm of natural instinct. That same night, while reviewing the latest footage on his upgraded camera system, John observed a peculiar anomaly. In a sequence captured from an angle overlooking the garden, a fleeting silhouette emerged in the background. It was indistinct, a shadow that moved with a deliberate, almost human-like grace, disappearing as quickly as it appeared. The image was so faint that John initially dismissed it as a trick of the light. However, as he scrutinized the recording again and again, the same fleeting figure reappeared, always just behind the wolf, as if accompanying it. This unexpected element sent a shiver down his spine and deepened the mystery, making him wonder if the wolf was not alone in its vigil. Fueling this growing tension, An anonymous email arrived in John's inbox the following morning. The message, written in a terse and urgent tone, warned him to be cautious and hinted that his discoveries were stirring up forces best left undisturbed. The email contained a scanned image of an old map, one that John recognized from local archives, marking a location in the nearby woods that had long been associated with ancient rituals and forgotten legends. The note ended with a cryptic line: "The Guardian is not what he seems. Follow the map to unveil the truth." With trembling hands, John compared the map to his own property and realized that the marked location lay just beyond the overgrown garden, a place he had never dared to explore. At the same time, the local newspaper published a brief, sensational headline about unusual nighttime occurrences in the area, citing residents who reported seeing strange lights and shadows near old ruins in the woods. The article mentioned folklore of a watcher of the wild, a mysterious figure said to protect ancient secrets. Although John was cautious about letting the media influence his thoughts, the article confirmed that he was not alone in experiencing odd phenomena. Neighbors, once indifferent, were now sharing their own tales of eerie encounters. A soft humming in the dark, inexplicable footprints, and even local pets behaving oddly. This collective unease added to John's mounting pressure. The mystery was no longer confined to his doorstep, but had spread its tendrils into the community. That night, driven by a mixture of trepidation and determination, John decided to venture into the area indicated on the map. With his camera in hand and his heart pounding, he left the safety of his well-lit home and followed a narrow, winding path toward the marked location. The forest, cloaked in darkness and silence, seemed to hold its breath. As he moved deeper into the woods, the dense canopy allowed only slivers of moonlight to filter through, creating a surreal interplay of light and shadow. Every rustle of leaves, every snap of a twig set his nerves on edge. The sensation that he was being watched grew stronger with each step. Near the location indicated on the map, John discovered remnants of what appeared to be an ancient stone circle, half obscured by nature's relentless reclaiming. In the center of the circle lay an old pedestal, its surface worn by time. A faint inscription, nearly erased, read, "In memory, find the key." Suddenly, a gust of wind stirred the leaves, and in that moment, John thought he saw the shadowy figure he had noticed on his footage, standing at the edge of the stone circle. It vanished before he could focus on it, leaving him with more questions than answers. Returning home that night, John's mind buzzed with the implications of his discovery. The combination of the eerie behavior of the wolf, the anonymous warnings, and the mysterious stone circle hinted at a connection between his family's hidden past and ancient, possibly supernatural forces that still roamed the land. Was the wolf truly a solitary guardian, or was it part of a larger, more intricate web of legends? And who or what was the shadow that haunted his recordings? These new hints escalated the tension to a fever pitch. John knew that the next phase of his investigation would force him to confront not only the external mysteries, but also the deepest recesses of his own fears. The lines between myth and reality were blurring, and the quest for truth was becoming increasingly perilous. With every unanswered question, the sense of impending revelation grew stronger, promising to unlock secrets that might alter his understanding of the world and himself forever. In the wake of his unsettling discoveries, John's investigation began to intertwine with the lives and stories of those around him, revealing a network of connections that deepened the mystery even further. As he delved into the ancient map and the lore of the Forest Guardian, new voices emerged, each adding their own piece to the growing puzzle. One afternoon, while discussing the recent anonymous email with his neighbor Lisa, John learned that she had long been fascinated by local legends. Lisa, a muralist whose artwork was inspired by the folklore of the region, recalled that her grandmother used to speak of a mystical wolf that appeared during times of personal transformation. According to her, this wolf was not a malevolent force, but a guide meant to steer those in need toward healing and self-discovery. Lisa's recollections resonated deeply with John, reinforcing the possibility that the creature outside his door was more than a mere animal. It was a symbol of transformation and ancestral memory. At the same time, Mark, John's pragmatic best friend, began to bridge the gap between skepticism and wonder. Although he had initially dismissed John's experiences as coincidences or overactive imagination, Mark's own encounter with a mysterious figure during a recent camping trip lent an unexpected dimension to the story. Mark described a fleeting vision of a shadowy person near an abandoned homestead, a memory he could not quite explain. This shared experience created a subtle bond between the two friends. Their conversations turned from heated debates into collaborative discussions about ancient family histories, folklore, and the possibility that their own lives might be intertwined with the land's deeper mysteries. John's quest also brought him closer to the local wildlife expert, Dr. Marshall, who had previously provided insights into the wolf's behavior. Intrigued by John's findings, Dr. Marshall invited him to a private tour of an old nature reserve on the outskirts of town. Amid the rustling trees and whispering winds, Dr. Marshall explained that in many indigenous cultures, wolves were revered as spiritual guides, symbols of endurance, loyalty, and the cycle of life. As they walked along a narrow path, Dr. Marshall pointed out subtle markings on tree bark and stone, artifacts left behind by those who believed in nature's sacred guardians. These small details further cemented the idea that the wolf was not simply following its natural instincts, but might be part of an ancient tradition of communication between the wild and the human spirit. Back in town, the local newspaper's ongoing coverage of the Watcher at the Door phenomenon began to stir public interest. Emily Rivera, the persistent journalist who had first spotlighted John's story, started a series of interviews with residents who had experienced unexplained events. One elderly man recalled seeing mysterious lights dancing in the woods on nights when the wolf appeared, while a young woman recounted a dream in which a spectral wolf had led her to a hidden, sacred grove. These individual testimonies, though disparate, wove together into a tapestry of shared wonder and trepidation. The community was gradually realizing that the strange occurrences were not isolated incidents, but part of a broader narrative that spanned generations. Meanwhile, John's correspondence with his distant cousin Elena began to gain momentum. Elena's letters, rich with family anecdotes and lore passed down through whispered generations, hinted at a long-forgotten ancestor renowned for his bond with the wild. She described a man who had once roamed the surrounding forests, revered as a guardian by locals and believed to have possessed the ability to communicate with animals. This revelation stirred a profound sense of kinship in John. He began to wonder if the mysterious wolf was a living echo of that very ancestor, a protector sent to guide him toward a forgotten part of his identity. As these subplots began to converge, John found that every new encounter added layers of complexity to his investigation. The anonymous email, the enigmatic map, Lisa's family lore, Mark's unexplained vision, Dr. Marshall's insights, and Elena's heartfelt stories. All of these threads wove together to form a narrative that transcended mere chance. The wolf, with its unwavering nightly vigil, had become a symbol of an intricate web of personal histories, community memories, and ancient legends. Yet, amid the burgeoning connections, a sense of urgency grew. The mysterious silhouette captured on his camera and the fleeting shadow near the stone circle hinted that something or someone was actively involved in keeping these secrets hidden. As neighbors began to whisper about the Watcher and local authorities showed tentative interest in the strange occurrences, John felt the pressure mounting. The interplay between public curiosity and private revelation created an atmosphere of suspense that permeated every aspect of his life. In the quiet moments before dawn, as he reviewed his notes and re-watched the footage, John realized that the journey he had embarked on was not only about solving an external mystery, but also about understanding himself. The wolf's gaze, the echoes of ancient legends, and the shared experiences of his community were all reflections of his inner landscape, his hopes, fears, and the enduring need to reconnect with a part of his soul that had long been dormant. As the days turned into weeks, the mounting evidence and intertwined subplots began to clash head-on with the forces of skepticism and caution within the community. John's once solitary investigation now stood at the nexus of personal destiny and public controversy. The legend of the forest guardian and the mysterious nightly vigil of the wolf had stirred not only his own soul, but had also ignited heated debates among neighbors, local authorities, and media outlets. The conflict had reached a critical turning point, one where the very nature of truth, myth, and personal legacy was about to be put to the ultimate test. At a tense town hall meeting organized by community leaders, residents gathered to discuss the unsettling phenomena and the implications it held for the neighborhood. Heated voices filled the room as people shared conflicting views. Some argued that John's accounts were nothing more than a result of overactive imagination or superstition, and that the strange behavior of the wolf should be left to the natural order. Others, however, insisted that the wolf was a sign, a portent of deeper, perhaps even supernatural, connections between the past and the present. As accusations and theories flew, the meeting reached a boiling point. An influential local council member, Mr. Whitaker, challenged John directly. "Are you saying that a wild animal is sent to guide you, or are you just clinging to old family tales?" His pointed words resonated across the room, forcing everyone to confront the possibility that John's discoveries might shake the very foundation of their understanding of local history. At the same time, the local newspaper, now following Emily Rivera's investigative series, published a provocative exposé hinting that the "watcher at the door" phenomenon could be linked to an obscure historical event, a mysterious disappearance from decades ago that had long been dismissed as folklore. The article not only questioned the legitimacy of the legend, but also insinuated that John might be inadvertently unearthing secrets that some powerful individuals would prefer remain buried. The story ignited public outrage and speculation, and soon local authorities expressed interest in securing the area around John's property. Patrols were increased, and questions about the safety of both residents and wildlife became the order of the day. For John, the external pressures were now mirrored by an intense internal struggle. Every night, as he reviewed his camera footage, he noticed the wolf's demeanor shifting, its eyes now occasionally darting toward the overgrown garden or lingering near the edge of the stone circle, as if in silent protest. Then, one fateful evening, as a violent storm raged outside and lightning illuminated the darkened skies, John's camera captured a scene that would change everything. The regal wolf, usually calm and measured, suddenly emerged from the fog in a state of agitation. Its pacing was erratic, and for the first time, it let out a low, mournful howl, a sound that echoed across the desolate landscape and sent chills down John's spine. Almost immediately, the previously unseen silhouette, the shadowy figure that had haunted earlier recordings, appeared in the background, standing motionless near the ancient stone circle. This startling display forced John to confront the possibility that there was more at stake than personal revelation. The wolf's behavior was now unpredictable, and the shadow hinted at an active presence in the area, someone or something determined to keep the hidden legacy of the past intact. Alarmed by these developments, John reached out to Dr. Marshall and Sarah for guidance, but their answers only deepened the mystery. Dr. Marshall, normally a bastion of scientific rationality, admitted he had never encountered such anomalous behavior in wildlife. Sarah, with tears in her eyes, recalled her grandmother's warnings about meddling with forces beyond human comprehension. Both cautioned him that the truth might be more dangerous than he anticipated. Meanwhile, Mark, who had previously supported John's quest with cautious optimism, began to distance himself. The mounting pressure and public scrutiny, coupled with his own haunting encounter in the woods, made him question whether the pursuit of these secrets was worth the risk. Their once close friendship began to fray under the weight of diverging beliefs, a clear manifestation of the conflict between rationality and the seductive pull of ancient myth. As tensions escalated, local law enforcement announced plans to patrol the area more aggressively, aiming to protect the community from potential wildlife threats. This move further polarized public opinion. Supporters of John argued that such measures were an overreaction, a way to silence an important piece of cultural heritage, while others insisted that safety had to come first. In the midst of this uproar, John felt the weight of destiny pressing upon him. Every unanswered question, every flicker of movement captured on film, converged into a singular realization. The time had come to face the heart of the mystery, no matter the personal or communal cost. On that stormy night, as thunder rumbled in the distance and the streetlights flickered under the relentless rain, John made a fateful decision. Determined to uncover the full truth of the shadow and the legend of the forest guardian, he would venture deeper into the forest, towards the ancient stone circle, and confront whatever forces awaited him there. The decision was not made lightly. It was the culmination of weeks of inner turmoil, public debates, and mounting evidence that hinted at a hidden reality beyond conventional understanding. In that charged moment, with the wolf's mournful howl still echoing in his ears and the shadow looming like a silent spectre, John knew that his next steps would not only reveal the secrets of his own past, but might also reshape the destiny of the entire community. The climax was at hand, a convergence of myth, mystery, and human emotion that promised to change everything. Under the weight of escalating tension and public scrutiny, John's personal quest reached a decisive turning point. The mounting evidence of anomalous activity, the erratic behavior of the wolf, the recurring shadow, and the mysterious warnings had forced him to confront not only the mystery itself, but also the divergent opinions of his community. At a community forum convened in the town's old civic center, voices clashed over the significance of the phenomenon. Local officials, skeptics, folklore enthusiasts, and even a few disillusioned residents gathered to debate the implications of the watcher at the door. During the heated discussion, Mr. Whitaker, a prominent local council member known for his pragmatic approach, stood up and declared, "We cannot allow superstitions to govern our lives. If this wolf is nothing more than a wild animal, then we must ensure public safety. Our neighborhood deserves facts, not folklore." His words resonated with a section of the audience, fueling calls for increased patrols and even relocation of the creature. In stark contrast, others, many recalling old family legends and personal experiences, argued that the wolf was a symbol of guidance, a link to a forgotten past that merited respect rather than fear. Amid this cacophony, John found himself at the center of the storm. His personal testimony, shared earlier at the forum, had already stirred strong emotions. Now, he was faced with a stark choice: to retreat into the safety of rational dismissal or to press forward into the unknown and embrace the possibility that the wolf was indeed a mystical sentinel tied to his family's legacy. The forum ended with a polarized audience, and while many remained divided, the overwhelming public debate added a sense of urgency to John's next move. That same evening, as rain pounded the rooftops and streetlights flickered under the storm, John sat alone in his study, reflecting on the events of the day. His heart pounded with the realization that every argument, every skeptical remark, and every whispered rumor was driving him toward a singular conclusion. The only way to unearth the truth was to confront it directly. Determined to break through the veil of uncertainty, he resolved to make a final daring decision. He would venture back into the forest, to the ancient stone circle he had discovered earlier, and confront whatever forces lay waiting there. Before setting out, John meticulously gathered his equipment: a high-resolution camera, a notebook brimming with observations, and a flashlight whose beam cut through the thick darkness. As he stepped out into the stormy night, the wolf's silhouette greeted him once again from a distance. This time, however, the animal's behavior was markedly different. It paced near the overgrown path, its eyes reflecting an intensity that seemed almost urgent. The faint, mysterious shadow he had previously captured flickered at the edge of his vision, as if beckoning him onward. In the oppressive silence of the forest, with only the sound of rain and distant thunder for company, John's footsteps became both a literal and metaphorical journey into the heart of the mystery. Every crunch of leaves underfoot was imbued with the weight of his inner conflict, between the safety of ignorance and the peril of unearthing truths that might shatter his carefully constructed reality. As he approached the stone circle, his pulse quickened. The ancient pedestal stood as a silent witness to centuries past, its weathered surface inscribed with barely legible symbols. Here, at this hallowed site, John felt the full force of the legend. The wolf, now visible in the clearing, watched him intently from the periphery, its eyes conveying a sense of solemn duty. The mysterious shadow was nowhere to be seen at that moment, leaving only the wolf's steady gaze as the connection between him and the ancient past. John's mind raced with thoughts of the family letter, the locket, and the long-forgotten stories recounted by his cousin Elena. Every fragment of evidence pointed to a deep-rooted legacy, a connection between his ancestors and the natural world that transcended ordinary explanation. In that charged moment, he knew that his decision would not only impact his own life, but also the broader understanding of the community's heritage. He reached out slowly, almost reverently, toward the pedestal. In doing so, he symbolically acknowledged that the truth he sought was inextricably linked to accepting both the beauty and the pain of his past. The decision to confront the mystery was clear. John would embrace the unknown, allowing the legend of the forest guardian to guide him toward a deeper understanding of himself and the intricate tapestry of folklore that bound his family to the wild. As he lingered in the clearing, a surge of determination overtook him. The wolf's silent approval, its eyes locked with his in a moment of unspoken communication, emboldened him. Despite the risks, despite the potential for further revelations that might disrupt his life, John knew that retreat was not an option. The confrontation that lay ahead was inevitable, an emotional reckoning with the mysteries of his lineage and the forces that had been stirring in the shadows. With the storm raging around him and the ancient stones standing witness, John took his first deliberate step forward. The journey had reached its critical juncture, a moment where the collision of myth, personal history, and community expectations would soon lead to a revelation that could transform everything. In that powerful electric moment, John embraced his fate, ready to face the secrets of the past, whatever they might hold. Under the heavy shroud of a moonless night, the atmosphere around John's home reached an almost unbearable intensity. The days of mounting evidence and cryptic clues had culminated in a state of heightened anticipation, a climax that loomed on the horizon like a storm waiting to break. Every detail of the past weeks had converged to this pivotal moment. The eerie nightly vigil of the wolf, the mysterious locket and family letter, the anonymous warnings, and the chilling discovery at the ancient stone circle in the woods. That fateful night, as John returned from his previous foray into the forest, his heart pounded with a mix of dread and determination. The air was thick with tension, and even the wind seemed to whisper secrets among the rustling trees. He stood at the threshold of his home, where the familiar glow of the porch light contrasted sharply with the ominous darkness beyond. The wolf, which had become an ever-present sentinel in his life, was nowhere in sight. Instead, an unsettling silence enveloped the night, a silence that promised that the final confrontation was near. John's upgraded camera system had captured a series of unnerving events over the past weeks, each recording building upon the last, until it now painted a full portrait of the mystery. The most recent footage had shown the wolf behaving erratically near the overgrown garden, its eyes reflecting both urgency and sorrow. More hauntingly, a shadowy figure had been glimpsed at the edge of the stone circle, a figure whose presence had raised more questions than answers. Tonight, every fiber of John's being was focused on unraveling these secrets once and for all. Inside his study, the table was scattered with all the pieces of evidence he had painstakingly collected. The locket, the faded photograph, the family letter, the map with the marked location, and pages of handwritten notes detailing his observations. Each item was a reminder of the legacy that connected him to a past steeped in folklore and mystery. As he reviewed the materials one last time, a realization struck him. The true meaning behind these symbols was not just about solving a personal puzzle, but about reconciling his identity with the enduring power of nature and the ancient wisdom of his ancestors. Determined to face the heart of the mystery, John made his way back into the forest. The narrow path that led to the ancient stone circle was bathed in an eerie luminescence from the occasional break in the clouds. With every step, his anxiety mounted. Every snap of a twig underfoot felt like a harbinger of the unknown. The forest, usually a realm of solace and quiet reflection, now transformed into a labyrinth of ominous shadows and murmurs of a forgotten past. At long last, John arrived at the clearing where the stone circle stood. The ancient pedestal, worn smooth by time and inscribed with barely discernible symbols, seemed to emanate a quiet power. In the center of the circle, the damp earth and scattered leaves bore witness to countless secrets held over centuries. As he approached, the silence was shattered by the distant howl of the wolf, a sound that was both mournful and commanding. It was a call that resonated deep within him, a summons that could no longer be ignored. Standing at the edge of the circle, John felt the full weight of destiny pressing down on him. The memory of the family letter and the cryptic inscription on the locket echoed in his mind. For those who seek truth, even the wild holds a secret. The wolf, it seemed, was not merely a wild animal, but a guardian of these secrets, a mystical link between his own heritage and the ancient lore of the land. As the storm clouds began to gather overhead, casting shifting shadows over the stone circle, John sensed that this was the moment when the past and present would collide. Then, in a startling twist of fate, the previously elusive shadow materialized at the edge of the circle. It moved with a deliberate, almost ethereal grace, a figure draped in darkness yet somehow familiar. The presence of this spectral figure sent a shiver down John's spine, for it confirmed that forces beyond his understanding were at play. In that charged moment, with the wolf's distant howl and the spectral figure looming, the culmination of his quest was at hand. John's pulse raced as he took a decisive step forward toward the pedestal. Every instinct told him that the truth lay within these ancient stones, and that by embracing his lineage and the mystic lore, he could finally reconcile the disparate fragments of his identity. The wolf, though unseen now, seemed to be watching from the shadows, a silent witness to his courageous act. As lightning briefly illuminated the clearing, John extended his hand to touch the weathered stone, symbolically accepting both the beauty and the burden of his past. In that electric moment, the mysteries that had haunted him for weeks converged into a single but profound realization. The secrets of the wild were not to be feared but embraced, for they carried the legacy of love, loss, and transformation. The storm raged on, but within the ancient circle, time seemed to slow, and John felt the stirring of a new beginning, a chance to heal the old wounds and forge a future guided by both truth and nature's enduring wisdom. The night had reached its deepest hour as John stood alone before his front door, every sense heightened by the culmination of weeks of restless investigation. The atmosphere was heavy with an almost tangible mix of anticipation and dread. Earlier that evening, the community's debates, the cryptic warnings, and the inexplicable footprints of the wolf had all converged into a single defining moment, a moment where myth and reality were destined to collide. As darkness enveloped his quiet street, John's upgraded camera flickered with new activity. The wolf, always a silent sentinel, had appeared again at its usual spot by the garden fence. But tonight, its demeanor was markedly different. It was agitated, pacing nervously along the edge of the property, its eyes gleaming with a strange urgency. In the midst of this tension, the spectral shadow, previously glimpsed only in fleeting moments on his recordings, materialized with startling clarity at the boundary of the overgrown garden. The figure, draped in darkness yet possessing an almost regal bearing, seemed to watch John intently, as if waiting for him to act. John's heart pounded in his chest. Every piece of evidence he had painstakingly collected, the mysterious locket, the family letter, the anonymous map, and the recurring behavior of the wolf, now converged in this charged moment. It was as though the universe had conspired to lead him here, to force him to confront not only the supernatural hints of his family's legacy, but also the deep, unresolved pain that had haunted him for years. Taking a deep, steadying breath, John stepped toward the front door. The decision to open it was not made lightly. It represented a choice to face the unknown, rather than retreat into the safety of familiar routine. As his hand reached for the knob, the spectral figure seemed to shift closer to the doorway, its presence both intimidating and strangely comforting. At that precise instant, the wolf's low, mournful howl broke the stillness of the night, a sound that resonated deep within John's soul, echoing memories of loss and the promise of renewal. With trembling resolve, John swung open the door. The cool night air rushed in, carrying with it the scent of damp earth and the faint, wild fragrance of pine. Standing there on his doorstep, illuminated by the dim glow of the porch light, he saw the wolf. Its eyes were fixed upon him, intense and unblinking, while the shadowy figure lingered just beyond, watching silently. For a long, heart-stopping moment, time seemed to suspend itself. John felt as if he were caught in the delicate balance between fear and hope, between the pain of the past and the possibility of healing. Then, in a moment that felt both surreal and inevitable, the wolf slowly approached. His steps were measured and deliberate, carrying an air of solemn dignity that belied its wild nature. As it neared, John's mind flashed back to the faded photograph in the locket and the cryptic words his mother had once written in her letter, a reminder that even the wild holds a secret. The wolf's gaze, imbued with an almost human wisdom, seemed to speak directly to him, urging him to let go of his fears and embrace the legacy that had shaped his very existence. At that very moment, the shadow shifted. The spectral figure, now clearer than ever, moved to stand directly behind the wolf, its features indistinct yet undeniably human. In a sudden, powerful burst of emotion, John realized that the figure was not a threat, but rather a guardian of his past, a spectral echo of an ancestor who had once walked these very lands. This revelation struck him like a lightning bolt. The wolf was not merely a wild animal roaming the night, it was a living messenger, bridging the gap between his family's hidden history and the present moment. Overwhelmed by this convergence of myth and memory, John felt a profound surge of clarity. The terror that had once gripped him was replaced by a resolute calm. In that electrifying instant, he understood that the mysteries haunting him were not forces to be feared, but guides meant to lead him toward a deeper understanding of himself and the enduring bond between man and nature. As the wolf and the spectral figure stood quietly, the storm outside began to subside. The oppressive darkness lifted ever so slightly, giving way to the soft glow of the approaching dawn. John, still on his doorstep, felt the weight of decades of unspoken sorrow and hidden legacy dissolve into a single, transformative moment. His heart swelled with the realization that his journey, filled with doubt, wonder, and courage, had brought him to this pivotal juncture. In that silent communion, with the wolf's eyes locked on his and the shadow's presence affirming his ancestral ties, John embraced the truth. The secrets of the wild, interwoven with his own personal history, had finally been laid bare. With a sense of renewed purpose and a soul no longer burdened by fear, he stepped back inside, leaving the door ajar as a symbolic bridge between the known and the mysterious. The night had transformed into a promise that by confronting the past, one could pave the way for a future where truth and nature's ancient wisdom coexist in harmonious balance. The climax of his long, arduous journey was not an end, but the beginning of a new chapter, a chapter defined by healing, acceptance, and the unwavering call of the wild. As the first light of dawn began to illuminate the horizon, a serene calm settled over the neighborhood, a calm that belied the tumultuous journey John had undertaken. His once isolated existence had been irrevocably transformed by the revelations of the night, and as he stepped back into his home, he carried with him not just memories of fear and uncertainty, but also a profound sense of renewal and purpose. Over the past weeks, John had pieced together fragments of his family's hidden legacy, linking them to the mysterious nightly visits of the wolf. The evidence, captured through upgraded camera systems, uncovered in dusty attic letters, and echoed in the ancient symbols at the stone circle, had all converged to form a tapestry of myth and memory. Now too, with the spectral figure and the guardian wolf standing as silent witnesses to his transformation, he realized that his past was not a burden to be hidden, but a beacon guiding him toward a more authentic future. In the aftermath of that pivotal night on the doorstep, John found that the mysteries he had so long pursued began to infuse his daily life with renewed energy. The once quiet and predictable rhythm of his days was now interspersed with moments of reflective wonder. Every time he walked past the overgrown garden or glanced at the old stone circle from his window, he was reminded of the ancient call that had stirred his soul. The experience had taught him that nature, with its enduring rhythms and timeless secrets, could speak to the human heart in ways that modern life often overlooked. The transformation within John was echoed in the broader community as well. Neighbors, who had once whispered about the watcher at the door, began to see the phenomenon in a new light, a symbol of continuity between the human world and the wild. Local media, which had sensationalized the mystery, eventually shifted its narrative toward stories of hope and reconciliation. Community meetings evolved into collaborative discussions about preserving local legends and honoring the past while building a future grounded in transparency and compassion. John Dewes, buoyed by the public's growing acceptance, decided to share his story in a more personal way. He organized a small gathering at his home, inviting those who had been touched by his journey. Friends, skeptics, and believers alike came together over warm drinks and soft music, listening intently as John recounted his experiences, the relentless vigil of the wolf, the eerie appearance of the shadow, and the powerful moment when he finally opened his door. In his narration, he emphasized that the true essence of the mystery was not in the fear it induced, but in the opportunity it offered for healing. He spoke of the wolf not as a harbinger of doom, but as a guardian, a living symbol of the connection between his ancestors and the wild, a reminder that every soul, no matter how scarred by time, carries within it the potential for rebirth. In the weeks that followed, John continued to explore the intricate relationship between nature and memory. He maintained his nightly vigil, now less out of trepidation and more as a gesture of gratitude for the guidance he had received. The wolf's steady presence became a part of his daily meditation, a quiet reminder that life was an ongoing journey of discovery. His research led him to collaborate with local historians and wildlife experts, and together they began documenting the oral traditions and legends that had long been relegated to folklore. This collective effort culminated in a small exhibition at the local community center, where photographs, handwritten letters, and recordings of nature's own voices were displayed side by side. The exhibition celebrated not only John's personal journey, but also the enduring power of local heritage and the wisdom of the natural world. The transformation was most palpable in John himself. No longer defined solely by solitude and quiet routine, he emerged as a storyteller and a guardian of ancient lore. The mystery of the wolf had forced him to confront painful memories and, in doing so, had opened a door to healing and self-acceptance. Every experience, every shadow, every howl had contributed to the mosaic of his identity, blending past and present into a coherent vision of hope. Now, as the sun climbed higher and bathed the town in a gentle glow, John felt ready to step forward into this new chapter. He resolved to honor the legacy of his ancestors by embracing both the rational and the mystical elements of his heritage. His journey had taught him that the truth often lies at the intersection of myth and memory, and that embracing one's past can unlock the promise of a brighter future. Thank you for joining us on this extraordinary journey of mystery, discovery, and transformation. If John's story has touched your heart and inspired you to explore the hidden connections between our past and the natural world, please subscribe to our channel, like this video, and share your thoughts in the comments below. Stay tuned for our next video, where we continue to delve into the remarkable tales that remind us how sometimes the wild holds the key to our deepest truths.